This is Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com. I hope you enjoyed this Critical Thought, your daily discussion on game design. Welcome to today's Critical Thought. As always, if you're enjoying the content, be sure to like and subscribe. For today's Critical Thought, it is Christmas Day. So for those of you who celebrate, have a Merry Christmas. And our Critical Thought is somewhat on topic for today. We're going to be talking about the concept of a wrapper when it comes to a video game. And this is going to be one of those more philosophical topics to some extent. When I'm referring to this idea of a wrapper for a game, these are elements that essentially obscure or hide the raw mechanics or data when it comes to playing a game. And there are two areas or categories we can discuss here. The first are aesthetic or non-gameplay elements. If we remove all elements of a wrapper, we're just dealing with straight mechanics. So move and shoot, jump on platform. There's nothing else to really be a part of the game. In this case, the wrapper essentially could be the sizzle on a steak, the wrapping paper on a present, if you will, the buffer when it comes to just examining or just seeing game mechanics plainly. And there are many examples of this. When we play the original Mario Brothers, for instance, the wrapper can be everything from the graphics of exploring the Mushroom Kingdom, the story that we are saving the princess, and even the iconic music. And again, these are all elements designed to be a buffer or essentially distract you from the pure mechanics of a game. For instance, this can be a way of making a game less frustrating or keeping you engaged during elements that may become annoying or tiresome over repeated acts. In Hotline Miami 1 and 2, for instance, yes, you're going to be dying 10, 20, 30, 40 times possibly in some of those levels, but you're still going to be nodding your head to the kick-ass music that's going to be playing. In the Talos Principle, for instance, it has one of the most beautifully serene soundtracks I've played in a game, and it basically adds another element to the fact that I'm just going around solving puzzles. And with those two examples, this is a good representation of why a wrapper is important. Because if you play Hotline Miami or the Talos Principle without any music whatsoever, the experience feels different because you've lost some of that buffer. And a good example of something that I've been experiencing lately would be a game like The Witness. This is the second game from Jonathan Blow, developer behind Braid. I'm going to be writing up a piece about it in 2017, or very early into 2017. And The Witness itself doesn't really have a wrapper, in a sense, to the puzzles. Yes, there is an island and there's the beautiful graphics, but all that doesn't really distract you from these puzzles that just kind of exist outside of the environment. There is no story, or the story itself doesn't really impact what you're doing, and there also is no music from what I could hear while I'm playing the game. And in this case, you're just experiencing basic mechanics over and over again. And this is how some games can become boring in a sense, or very repetitive. A good counterexample to that kind of element would be a game like the Professor Layton series, which is all about critical thinking and solving logic-based puzzles. But what they do is there's always a little bit of lore or a little bit of a story behind these puzzles. So one puzzle could be, how do you divide a pie up between 4 hungry customers? Or another one is, how do I fit all my luggage into an airplane so I don't have to check it at baggage claim, or something like that. And again, these things aren't integral or vital to the puzzles or the mechanics themselves, but they give you a buffer between these mechanics. So you can have 15, 20 different puzzles all built on the same basic thinking or thought process, but it still feels different to you because the wrapper is different. And again, these are elements that are going to hide this raw information from the player. And that takes us to the second part of this topic, and that's when we're talking about mechanics or the formulas themselves. Video games, no matter how real or player-based or abstracted, all deal with hard numbers and values behind the scenes. This can be everything from the damage your shotgun does in Doom to the calculations of defense and attack when you're playing Baldur's Gate, Mass Effect, whatever. And when we talk about the wrapper in this point of view, these are elements that are designed to hide this kind of raw information or the numbers from the player. Now, before we get to that, I actually want to bring up one other point when we're talking about this wrapper. The wrapper itself is not pure mechanics or systems, such as loot, achievement, progression models, bosses, stuff like that. But the wrapper can be a part of that. For instance, when you pick up a new piece of item or new gear in Diablo 3, yes, there is data there. You're hiding the fact of, what the sword does or this axe, stuff like that. The raw data is still there, but the wrapper would be the weapon itself. When I pick up a legendary club or armor in Diablo 3, I not only get this weapon and the data, but I get this, unique looking piece of gear. This sword that's glowing with, skulls coming out and stuff like that. And again, that would be the wrapper element. Now, when it comes to the data side of games, depending upon the genre and the design in question, the wrapper will be used differently. For instance, if I'm, like I said with Doom, I don't need numbers or a formula to tell me, that a double-barrel shotgun to the face of a demon is going to hurt a lot. But when I'm playing a game like Soulsborne, for instance, I need information. Because when I'm, swinging my club or stabbing an enemy, that animation is the same, but the numerical damage is different. So I can, swing like this, and I could do 500 points of damage to an enemy. Or I could do 30 points of damage. Let's say my enemy, the durability is low, or the enemy resists that damage. I need to know that, so I'm not just swinging my weapon wildly and hoping that I'm actually hurting them. Now, in cases like this, the wrapper again will hide the raw data and the raw formula. When I attack an enemy in Soulsborne, the game will take into account my max damage, the type of damage I'm doing, and then what are the resistances to that enemy. So I could have a total of 600 fire damage, let's say that, and I hit an enemy. Necessarily or not necessarily, I'm not going to do 600 points of damage. If the enemy resists fire slightly, maybe I'll do 475. If the enemy's weak against it, I could do 800, 900. Again, this is information that we're not seeing all of it, but we're given enough to make important decisions on. And that is one of the key points when it comes to the design of a wrapper. The player still needs enough information so that they know how to make these decisions. With Soulsborne, I don't need to see the exact calculations. If I see that this attack is doing 500-600 points of damage, I don't need formulas in that case. Just like if I see that my attack is doing 20, I know there's something wrong. I need to switch weapons, or maybe I need to add a fire or arcane enchantment to my weapon. But it's important that the player needs the information to make these decisions. And a good example of this would be from Grim Dawn. In Grim Dawn, you have different character sheets or character pages to show information. The first sheet shows your most general information. What's my offensive ability? What's my max DPS? What's my max defense? Basic stuff like that. I don't need anything more to make a basic decision. If I'm doing 95 points of damage per second with this weapon, and then I switch weapons and this one does 150, that's obviously better. But if I want to learn more, the second and third pages will reveal a greater detail or breakdown of this information. So let's say again I have 300 damage per second. On the second page it will show me, okay, I do 150 physical damage, I do 50 fire damage, and I do 100 lightning damage. And this is a way of showing me exactly what my damage is, which will become inferred, or I'll have to reference this, when let's say I'm applying passive perks, or choosing between two different rings. If the focus of my damage is fire, for instance, then I want perks or passive abilities that enhance fire damage. Putting something on that gives me plus 50% chaotic damage is not going to do much if I'm doing 0 points of chaotic damage. But again, even at this level of detail, we're still hiding even more data. Again, the actual formulas. Now, as I said a few minutes ago, this is on a game-by-game case. So, in a game like Baldur's Gate, or a game that's making use of Dungeons and Dragons formulas and stuff like that, it's kind of important for me to understand what these formulas are. But at the same time, for a new player, it's good to just show things very simple. Let's say, instead of having a formula that determines if a weapon does more or less damage, if I hit an enemy with his weakness, let's say the number is red to indicate that I'm hitting him with the best weapon. But let's say that I hit the enemy and the number is blue or gray. This tells me that this weapon isn't strong against this enemy. I should switch. And that will be a good case or a good example of a wrapper. You can have those formulas in the game, but as long as you present the information to the player to make these informed decisions, you can hide it any way, shape, or form that you want. Some other examples would be what we see in Civilization, where we have, again, raw data being hidden in favor of abstracted numbers. But you can still see a more detailed examination through tooltips. Again, how the game uses, or as we talked about earlier with UI design, symbols, colors, unique pieces of, or actually like different kinds of symbols could represent different elements. Anything along these lines are an example of a wrapper, because we are hiding raw data from the player, but it's still detailed or clean enough that they can make these informed decisions. And I think we'll start to wrap things up here, but to summarize, the wrapper again is designed to hide raw information, so the player just isn't assaulted by the same exact thing for 2, 3, 4, 20 hours of play. And as we've said, at its basic level, wrapper is pure aesthetics or secondary information to a game, or secondary data like storytelling. And in this front, the wrapper could really be described as the icing on a cake. It adds to the experience, but it won't make a horrible tasting cake be delicious. Just like how a great story or a unique aesthetic won't hide the fact that your game could have horrible gameplay. Now, could it help elevate it? Yes. But this is going to be the case of taking a 2 out of 10 game and turning it into a 10 out of 10 game of the year kind of thing. When it comes to the data or the mechanics side of things, again, you need to balance just how much information you're going to show the player. And again, we can't have a simple formula that works for everything. A game like Doom is going to be different from a game like Diablo, or Final Fantasy, or Mass Effect, or Devil May Cry. But it's important that the player gets enough information that they can make a determination about what's going on. Again, in a game like Doom, I hit enemy with a shotgun. I know it's going to do a lot of damage. I don't need numbers. But if we're dealing with abstracted information, such as different types of weapons or elemental resistances and stuff like that, I need a good indicator that what I'm doing is actually working. Because when I do this massive heavy swing, I have to know if I'm actually hurting the guy. In Bloodborne, for instance, very lately, I was watching my guy swing my massive hammer, growling and screaming, and doing 20 points of damage because the enemy was resistant and my weapon durability broke. Likewise, I switched to claws and I was, roaring and doing stuff like that, and I'm still doing maybe 70 points of damage because this weapon wasn't fully upgraded. And like I said, when we talk about games being a series of interesting decisions or interesting questions, I need the information to make these decisions. If I don't have it, and I'm just fumbling around through the dark, that would be a case when the wrapper is too involved. Likewise, If I'm playing a game and I hit an enemy and all of a sudden the screen fills with numbers and equations, that would be an example that the wrapper is too late. And again, this is something that's going to come from playtesting. And honestly, we haven't dedicated a full critical thought to the importance of beta, alpha, or player testing. And I think we were going to have to talk about that real soon. But for today, that's going to do it. Once again, for you folks celebrating Christmas, I hope you're having a great Christmas day. And as always, if you're enjoying the content, be sure to like and subscribe. I am Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com, where we examine the art and science of games. Have a great rest of the night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow with more great content here and on GameWisdom.com. Take care. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and of course share with your friends. It always helps out. For daily posts on all manner of game design and industry topics, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the site and everything that I do, be sure to check out the Patreon campaign. If we can hit goals, it will mean more content for everyone to enjoy, and I'll be able to support myself and my household. If you want to follow me, you can find me on Twitter at GWBycer for updates throughout the day and random thoughts from me. And lastly, you can find me on Twitch right over there at GWBycer for daily streams most nights around 10 Eastern. Thanks again for watching the video, and be sure to check out more great content coming to the Game Wisdom channel real soon.